I want to listen to this interview with Charlie Kirk's wife or ex-wife or whatever, I guess, Erica Kirk. She said some absolutely absurd things. Just give this a listen.
One of the things that has happened over the 3 months since Charlie was murdered is
Wow, has it been 3 months already? That's crazy.
that people have gone through the thousands, maybe tens of thousands of hours of words he produced. He said more in 31 years than most people will say in a lifetime. Yes. And I want to read a few that have captured the most attention, especially on the political left, okay?
Yeah.
Some gun deaths were, quote, unfortunately worth it to preserve the Second Amendment, he said. Acknowledging that he wishes he didn't feel this way, he said, I'm sorry, if I see a black pilot, I'm going to be like, boy, I hope he's qualified.
Oh, I have a few more we're going to talk about in a minute.
He said the Civil Rights Act of 1964 was a mistake. Now, I realize that all of those quotes come from longer conversations that he had on his show.
Correct.
It's completely irrelevant. It does not matter. Those are the things that he said, and it wasn't in the context of a joke. It wasn't in a broader conversation about anything. It was, he believes that when he sees a black pilot, that they're not as qualified as a white pilot. He said gun deaths are worth it for the Second Amendment. I mean, how do you, like, what context could you add to that to make it any better than it is, other than it was completely and totally a joke and he was not serious and it was satirical? That is the only context you could add to it to make it not vile. And that wasn't the case with the things that he said. There is no fixing that. He was a scumbag. I'm sorry, he just was.
But he did say those things.
Mm-hmm.
And Charlie is being memorialized by many people as a person who promoted civil discourse, as a person who said, come to the front of the line, let's have a civil conversation.
Even though he was not that person. He pretended to be some civil dude. He wasn't, as you'll see in a second.
How do you square that with the statements I just read?
I would love for everyone to be able to watch the full and entire clip of what he said.
That doesn't make it better, again, at all.
Charlie didn't care what skin color you were. He didn't care what religion you were.
Let me show you the conversations that Charlie Kirk said. Some of the like really disgusting things that he said.
And I'll tell you one more thing that's on my mind tonight, and conservatives everywhere. The idea that people are saying, well, he was an extremist, or he was a racist, or he was a Nazi, or a misogynist, whatever. Charlie Kirk was a mainstream conservative Republican. He had views that are held by tens of millions of people, including more than half the country in the last election.
Yeah, that's what disturbs the shit out of us.
If I see a black pilot, I'm going to be like, boy, I hope he's qualified. It begs the question, when you see a black pilot, you wonder, you say, I hope they are qualified. And in the spirit of affirmative action, we have Ramon and Cadillac are your two pilots. They've never flown before, but they are black. If I'm dealing with somebody in customer service who's a moronic black woman, is she there because of her excellence, or is she there because of affirmative action? I'm only here because of affirmative action. Yeah, we know you do not have the brain processing power to otherwise be taken really seriously.
The war on white people continues.
You had to go steal a white person's slot to go be taken somewhat seriously.
We are raising a generation of weak people like Simone Biles.
LeBron James is a self-interested, narcissistic, and we know he's not very smart.
You're representing your nation. You're selfish sociopath.
Not very bright, not wise, not somebody of good character.
She is a shame to the country.
Blacks in America did not have the same rights they had today. Data shows they were actually better in the 1940s.
Blacks were better, quote unquote. The blacks were better in the 1940s. They were happier in the 1940s. I beg to differ. They were not. In fact, you know, there's a group of people called, I think, the Little Rock Nine. The Little Rock Nine, is that the name of the group? Some of them are still alive today, but they were the first, basically, 9 people who were not fully white to go to a white school. And if I remember, the Arkansas governor tried to force them with the National Guard to not go to the school. They lined the National Guard up along the school entrance to prevent them from entering the school. And Eisenhower, I believe, federalized the National Guard and got the 101st Airborne in, maybe, to enforce the federal law, to force Arkansas to allow these people in. And in 1996, the Little Rock Nine went on Oprah to face some of the people who harassed them the most when they were in class. The dude that these people are about to talk to was a monster when he was in school and harassed them relentlessly, but he's here to apologize to them. 1996.
By the way, guys, check out my new shop, owenmorgan.com/shop. I have a bunch of really cool designs on there.
Knew Carlotta just because she had a locker close to me, and we would,
That's how I recognized you off the bat. I remember you. I remember your smile. I remember your eyes. I remember your cat calls. You used to get me coming out of English class, walking down the hall. You remember that? And
they're smiling, but their smiles are to hide the pain. She's really recounting a very painful experience, as she's about to explain in a second.
I've never forgotten your name. I've never forgotten your name. Never, ever.
Was he not nice to you?
He was insidious because he was continuous. He was like relentless. He never gave up. It wasn't like he did this one day. It was like every day. And he had eyes, and he really frightened me because every day he was there. It wasn't like it was going to be today, Tuesday, Thursday. It's going to be every day.
Every time you see him, you know trouble.
So it was like Chinese water torture.
it was like he had a day job.
That's right.
It's like he had a day job.
Right, man. He was on time. He was on time and on target every day.
Every day.
Every day.
Does his apology mean anything to you?
I would like to come forward.
A lot. Yeah, it means a lot.
Yeah.
Again, this is David Sontag, died in 2010. Some of these Little Rock Nine are still alive. This is not, 150 years ago. This is yesterday, basically. The people who experienced this are still with us. The people who drank from blacks and whites only water fountains are still with us. There are people alive today whose grandmother was a slave, whose grandfather was a slave. This was yesterday.
Don't worry about it.
I wish you all the good.
Yeah, thank you.
And you better listen than you.
Yeah, it means everything to me.
Imagine accepting this guy's apology. Imagine accepting his apology after that. That had to be so fucking hard to deal with when they were in school, when they were going through this. It had to be so fucking hard. And Charlie Kirk said the Civil Rights Act, the thing that made it possible for them to go to an integrated school, he said it was a mistake. There is no context that makes that better. There is no additional information. There is no, you have to watch the whole thing to understand. Charlie Kirk was a piece of shit. I'm sorry that you don't want to accept that if you're listening, but he was a piece of shit. The things that he said were fucking vile and evil and represented everything bad in this country. The things that he said directly led to more pain and suffering for people who don't deserve it. He directly led to black people losing their jobs for no fucking reason. Look at this. This is a general of the U.S. military. I believe the first black general.
One of the most insulting questions that gets asked me sometimes is, did they give you your 4th star just because it's a bicentennial year coming up and they want to say we got a black... In one word, one question, this guy has wiped out all the blood and sweat and tears and preparation and effort that it took me to prepare myself, to fill the squares, to fight the wars, to go to the schools, to go to Air University, and to study deep into the night, to hone my skills as a fighter pilot, and to get out there over way north in skies much less friendly than those of United and fight my way back home in the name of the foreign policy of my country. No, they didn't give me anything. And they don't give away stars in my service. You got to earn them. Generals are made, they're not born.
This guy was asked by a reporter, or did they give you this because it's, we're coming up on a bicentennial or whatever for the country. And with that statement, he erased all the hard work this guy put in. They don't just give stars to people. They don't just give law degrees to people. They don't just give pilot's licenses to people. I just created a new website, firesidewatch.com. You can watch videos with friends, and everybody can play or pause the video. I made it so I could collaborate with other YouTubers, but I figured I might as well make it available to everybody. On top of that, you can add videos to the queue, upvote them, and sort by most upvoted. Give it a look, firesidewatch.com. And while you're at it, check out my Patreon, owenmorgan.com/Patreon. You can follow me there for free. Here's another one right here.
I went to Harvard Law School. I've got a lot of degrees and awards. I've won cases at the U.S. Supreme Court, and I've been in courtrooms representing clients, getting there early, sitting at defense counsel's table, where the judge will walk in and immediately get mad at me. The judge will look at me and say, hey, you get back out there in the hallway. I don't want any defendant sitting in my courtroom without their lawyer. And I have to stand up and say, well, I'm sorry, Your Honor. I am the lawyer. I didn't introduce myself. My name is Brian Stevenson. I have to try to de-escalate this situation. And I was doing that recently. I was in a courtroom in the Midwest, and the judge started laughing, but it wasn't an apologetic laugh. And it kind of angered me. And the prosecutor started laughing. They thought it was so funny. And I was sitting there getting angry. And then I thought, oh no, Brian, you can't get angry. You need to smile. You may need to laugh. And I felt that way. I thought that way because my client was not going to be able to leave that county. I was able to leave that county and never come back based on the way I was treated if I chose to do that. But my client was going to have to stay there. So when they were laughing, I smiled. And then I eventually chuckled. Client came in, we did the hearing. But I remember sitting in my car after that hearing thinking, wow, here I am, this middle-aged black man. I'm in my best suit. I actually argued the case at the Supreme Court that we were trying to implement. I've got all of these degrees and awards, and I'm still required to laugh at my own humiliation to do justice for my client. That's not right. That's not fair. And I'm getting old enough to know that when you have to constantly navigate presumptions of dangerousness and guilt because of your color, when you have to tell your children how to survive a police encounter, what to do and what not to do, how they can't do the things that their white friends can do because they're going to be burdened with this presumption, when you have to constantly navigate this world, it's exhausting. And I want something better. I want something better for everybody. And that's why the commitment to truth-telling, the commitment to building institutions that help us understand the harms of history is such a priority.
Imagine being a Harvard lawyer sitting at a defense table and the judge starts laughing because he mistook you for the defendant. And you have to laugh along with him. You have to. That is because of Charlie Kirk and people like him. He directly caused that type of sentiment, that type of feeling. His words and actions directly, one-to-one correlate to people's suffering. He was not a good person. He was a scumbag.
Some nuance about the death of George Floyd that no one dares to say out loud, which is that this guy was a scumbag.
Remember what BLM stands for? Burn, loot, and murder.
Now, does that mean it deserves to die? That's two totally different things. Of course not.
Prowling blacks go around for fun to go target white people. That's a fact.
There's no such thing as white privilege or racism. So
Black people are allowed to talk about black culture in a way that white culture cannot. Black people can go up and say that there's a baby mama problem in black America, and white people are not allowed to say that. Oh, I just did. So what are you going to do, cancel me? Black people are allowed to say.
He's fucking disgusting, dude. Saying this to a couple of black dudes. Fucking disgusting. That is evil. The point is that Charlie Kirk was a scumbag, and there is no context that can set this right, that can make this better. No matter how much Erica Kirk wants you to think that there's context that'll make it better, there just isn't. He was a bad person. And if he wanted people to not believe that he was a bad person when he was dead, then he should have been a better person when he was alive. Tell me what you think in the comments.